Welcome to our holiday edition of Wellness Wednesdays. I'm Erin Croyle, Communications Specialist for the Center for Family Involvement. Patrice Beard is the CFI's Mental Health Specialist. The Center for Family Involvement at VCU's Partnership for People with Disabilities works with families to increase their skills as advocates, mentors, and leaders so that families, children, and adults with disabilities can lead the lives that they want. Of course, a big part of that is our mental health, and for many of us, the holidays can be the most frantic time of the year. Patrice, let's just dive right in. The holidays are hard, and it's really hard on women and mothers because of the pressure to make it magical. So how can we ensure that these weeks are enjoyable for us, too?
That's a good question. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And I've been thinking also about this is going to be like the first holiday season, if you will, with COVID and the pandemic and all that. And I think a lot of us are already maybe not dreading it, but like a little apprehensive because it's all going to be so new for all of us. I mean, how are you feeling about that? You know, just not only the stress of the holiday season, but putting the pandemic on the stress of the holiday season.
Oh, it's weird, right? There's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about like not being able to get what I need from stores. So I'm already doing that part of it. And I have been. My poor kids, I have 3 little ones, and you know, this year's been so hard for them, and now they won't get to see cousins. They won't get to see their grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm feeling it. I really am. But I'm also feeling like, okay, well, so let's do it up. Let's make it, because of all that extra stress, let's make it as like kind of awesome yet laid back as possible, you know?
Yeah, well, we already started decorating. So I went the polar opposite. So I'm like, you know, kind of like feeling like in a funk, you know what I mean? So like November 1st, I'm like, all right, Christmas time. I mean, let's get the trees out. And I went a little overboard already. I'm up to 3 trees. I don't know. I don't know what I'll be up to once Christmas gets here, but yeah, my husband's like, where are we going to put it up? I'm like, you don't worry about where we're going to put it up. I need to feel good right now. And Christmas trees make me feel good. So I've got Christmas everywhere already. So that's kind of how I flipped it around a little bit. Makes me feel better. I'm also thinking maybe this year, like to your point, I want to switch it up kind of completely. Like, well, and we can do it completely. We can do it part way. We can do it a little bit, you know. And I think we all need to, obviously, number one, be gentle with ourselves, right? We are all going through something right now. It's this Christmas season. We're putting a pandemic on top of it, like we said. So let's do something different. Put a twist on, you know, what we normally do. I mean, who knows? You might come up with something that you want to keep going tradition-wise over and over. You may stumble into something, you and your family may stumble into something like, hey, we like this. This is cool. I know for Thanksgiving for us, we're not having a lot of extended family come in because of obvious reasons. And we decided I'm going to make all the sides because everybody likes all the sides, but we're going to make shrimp and steak. We're going to put steak on the grill.
Nice.
And yeah.
Shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah, shrimp and steak, and then I'll have the green bean casserole and the, you know, all the standard stuff, and we're just gonna have a cookout, you know. I mean, just put like a little different spin on it, you know. Actually, the kids are kind of excited about it.
That sounds perfect. We're kind of like, you know, since my gang's younger, they're not as adventurous. But I want to get them involved, and we're planning to do video dinners with my brother who's in Minnesota and cook the same meal and then kind of talk about it and do pairings and talk about what we're drinking and dessert and just kind of like sit there with each other and be together without being together. So yeah.
That's
And I
awesome.
already, you know, just for my sanctity, I've been doing this, but I'm doing it even more so is on the weekends in the morning when the kids are still kind of waking up, I'm going on walks, distanced walks with a friend. I think for the holidays, you know, maybe get like a hot cocoa and walk with them, you know, like to just make it a little more festive, something to just make it special, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just something different. And I would encourage like sitting, like all of us sitting down with people who we know we're going to spend it with, like the actual meal or whatever, and just say, hey, what do you want to have? Maybe if somebody gets to choose something they get, even if it's kind of ridiculous, that could turn into an awesome tradition. Make it fun, change it up. I
Exactly.
love the idea of the Zoom dinners. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a little weird because I think we're all zoomed out, but it's a little bit different when it's family and you're eating dinner and you can be yourself, you know?
Yeah.
It's it's gonna be good. And to make the same meal and compare it. And if it's a flop, we can laugh about it. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
it is. And I think you mentioned COVID. I think something important we should all remember while we go through this time is, I know I'm finding myself, I'm wanting to make things more special for my kids and for my family. And I keep looking to buy things, both for comfort, but, toys and things that they love. But I really think, especially with so much uncertainty, we all should be very careful about how much we spend because
Yeah.
job security and all of that, we just don't know what the future brings. And I just always think it's important to bring that out. So I keep focusing with my kids to think about what we can do, like think outside of the box for gifts, look at secondhand stores. I get jewelry for my kids at secondhand stores to put in places and things like that can break easily. And I don't know about you, but I think grandparents love like cards just that the kids make, something from the heart.
Absolutely. And there's enough time, and our kids know that things are different. I mean, they may understand more depending on their age, but they know things are different. So I think starting those conversations now of those things, and having them be a part of that conversation, and having them adding to that conversation, and coming together as a family and a team makes a huge difference when they feel like they have a voice in it, and they're in on that plan from the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
I would suggest in anything, and we all know that in anything with your child, whether it's an IEP, whether it's, whatever, including them as much as you can, and having that conversation as a joint family,
Yeah. I
But
think,
there are also other things
yeah.
that we need to think about too with self-care during the holidays, especially, you know, us moms, us women, sometimes we put way too much. We put more on ourselves than anybody really has any expectation of. We have the biggest expectations of ourselves. We're huge enemies of ourselves, aren't we? We're so critical of ourselves.
Oh, so much so. I find myself sometimes saying, kind of jokingly, but actually saying in front of my kids, oh, I'm the worst mom ever. And I don't really mean it. It's awful. I shouldn't say it, but I'll do something wrong or, because it's so stressful right now, I'll yell when I don't want to, and then I'll be upset. And yeah, we're very hard on ourselves. I find my kids to be much more forgiving of me than I am of me.
Oh yeah, and also I would challenge all of us when we do snap out or yell out or something like that, to take a second and look and think, oh, how's my well? And if you feel you're short and you're upset and you don't have enough patience, then that's usually a huge warning, that you need to take some time for you. You're depleting yourself on your self-care. And that's usually, if you look at your child, you say something to your child or your spouse and they're like, oh my God, dude, what has happened to you?
Yeah.
That's usually a signal that you need to, like, okay.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's happening almost every day now.
Hmm.
And I think that with, I mean, you're the person, right? You're the specialist. But I mean, for me, with the holidays building up, I'm really looking forward to just breaking some of the rules. I think the way that I'm going to try to do self-care is that I'm going to let us watch a movie on a school night. I'm going to let us kind of hang out. Um, we're already kind of breaking bedtime. And, the other day, just to change things up, where we went to see the stars. We went out like where it was dark and we laid a blanket down and saw the stars because the weather let us do that. Um, and with they're not gonna, having like 2 weeks off from school, just those lazy mornings. And just allowing us to just be and taking the pressure off ourselves because it's so relentless right now.
Hmm. It's funny you say that. You say breaking the rules. And the first thing that pops in my head is who's making those rules? Like, it's okay to change, edit, rules are meant to be broken, right? Within reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's um like making time for yourself is like the hardest thing to do. But if you think about it, pre-pandemic, we did have little bits of time, albeit small, that we did have to ourselves that we don't have now. And I don't think we realize that. Whether it was driving the kids to school, your kids being in school, whether it was you going to work and being in that car ride to decompress, going to work and from work. If you think about it, if you're home now and teaching kids virtually or whatever, you don't have any of that now. And so that's the kind of thing we have to be, like I'm saying, be gentle with yourself. You've got to schedule time in and be intentional on setting that time in to be by yourself. And I'm not saying it has to be a big and an elaborate thing. I mean, like you said, you're going for a walk, whether that's a walk around the block, maybe you're taking a shower, maybe you're binging on Netflix or whatever it is. We're missing a lot of that time now. We don't have it, and we need to be intentional with that, with our self-care. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think something that we need to really think about, given that we have no time to ourselves, those of us who maybe have Santa in our lives need to think about how Santa might do things differently for
Right.
coronavirus, because there are some things that just won't be possible this year because somebody is always here.
Hmm.
There's certain things that we're going to have to really think outside the box to do to keep the magic around. Um, and I say that because I have little ones somewhere around here, but it's going to be different. And I think we need to think about how we can do this in a way where we are still happy, because the most important thing for everybody in our lives, in our circle, is that contentment. And so if there's frustration and anger and stress all the time,
Yep.
then what are we doing it for anyway?
Hmm. Yeah. I also think, to put a spin on it, I think if we reconnect with things that we enjoy. I don't know about you, but I used to love to put jigsaw puzzles together. I like the bigger the better, right? And for some reason, life over the years, I don't put puzzles together anymore. I usually save it for like when I'm going to the beach or something like that. And then I'm like, why am I doing that now? Like, why don't I just like put a jigsaw puzzle on the dining room table and then let that be my little, brain numbing thing where mindless thing I can do and focus on that, right? Um, I don't know what I mean. Other like I used to make those knitting hats, like the weave, thing, and then I stopped doing that because I didn't have time. And I'm like, well, why don't I start doing that again? Just to reintroduce. Maybe I can teach my son something or my daughter something. I mean, or I hate baking. All you bakers, I am not worthy. I love to cook. Baking is too precise for me. Like you screw up and you cook, you can add something, do something, counter it. There's always, but like baking, no. You're like measuring, weighing, and no. And so I just stopped. I just stopped baking. And so I'm like, oh, maybe this year I'll try it again. I mean, just to reconnect, do something different, flip it around so it's not like negative. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And in fact, with you saying this, I'm thinking like in years past, I've wanted, I remember my mom making like 6 different cookies, and I've always kind of wanted to do that, but I never have the time. Like I'm lucky if we make sugar cookies. And I think, maybe this is the year where we make a bunch of different cookies and we can gift them to people, just leave them on friends' doorsteps to just show our appreciation. Writing Christmas cards. Like, why not? Like, it's been so busy lately, the past few years, that I haven't even done a Christmas card. Um, I'm thinking, other holidays as well. Like I've always wanted to celebrate and teach my kids more about Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. So maybe this is the year we kind of observe those in a secular way so they understand things better. I really feel like it's time, like, yeah, just kind of do some stuff that we never have time to do because there's nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And, the other thing that I've already kind of thought about too is like, I've always loved little Christmas traditions. So, anyone in Northern Virginia, the Botanical Gardens in Washington, D.C., does an amazing train display. Every year we would go. And so I've always looked, depending on where we live, for awesome Christmas traditions. And well, it's not safe for us to be inside. So this year, I don't know, we can create ones that are free and that don't cost anything. Maybe just go see Christmas lights in neighborhoods and, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we did that last year. We have a pretty big neighborhood there's one house down the road where the lights are up to music. And I remember like last year I was like, we didn't do it. And I'm like, well, maybe we just need to when we continue doing that, you know what I mean? Like revisit that. Life, like it or hate it, this has caused our lives to slow down a bit and take a beat. Now, I'm not saying not to acknowledge your feelings, because that's still important, right? You can't ignore your feelings. If you're sad, or if you're sad because maybe you don't get to see your family member that you normally would in person. That sucks. I mean, that's sad. That's okay. And that's okay to mourn that. That is okay to acknowledge that and mourn that. But what I'm saying is, in addition to that, in addition to feeling your feelings, what other things can we do to not make it all negative, right? What are some different twists we can put on it? And that's what I would encourage. And I would also encourage to avoid the burnout that you're talking about when you're busy and all these things you have to do. And some of us are working from home. Some of us are working from home and teaching our kids, or supervising virtual. Some of our children have disabilities. Some of them don't have disabilities, but virtual is not their bag. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot going on right now. So I think it's important to set boundaries for yourself. And if that means take it easy on yourself, be gentle with yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Who made that rule up? It doesn't have to be perfect. And set boundaries with things that are going on in America right now. And we all know, we have the election, we have the pandemic again. Don't be bombarded nonstop with this stuff. It affects your mental health so much. And if you have that friend that just is on Facebook constantly being negative and negative and no matter what side, being negative, or you have that person that just wants to text you all the time, is constant negativity, it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say, hey, I'm taking a social media break. Talk to you soon, or whatever. But that we need to, because our anxiety is high now anyway, and we have to take care of ourselves. And it's okay to say, okay, I'm taking a break from this. I need to stop being hit, Does that make sense?
I think that is so important. And I think, a friend and I were just texting today, and I mentioned something I saw on Twitter, and she's like, I can't be on Twitter today. I need a Twitter break. And with my kids, I see it with them. The screens just create this.
Yeah.
Ugh. And so, we try to do screen-free days.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I can see us maybe doing several of those. In fact, we did a getaway, my family and I, where we were learning from a cabin. There was very little internet. Like you had to go in there was like a little circle outside the cabin to check email. So I was still working during that time, but that week with no TV and the only news we had was the radio and NPR, I felt freer than I'd felt ever before. So it's amazing that we don't create that space, in our own home. Why not turn off the modem for a while? Why not just shut things down and let our minds be free? We're so overstimulated and bombarded with messaging that and we're so addicted to it. I think that that plays a huge role in us just being calm and being centered.
Right. And even like you said, you were going to meet with family through Zoom to have dinners and things like that. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I don't know your situation, but in general, for everyone, there's nothing wrong with saying, um, we won't be discussing these things are off the table, or even if that friend is texting you about their, about whatever, if that's causing your anxiety to rise, or you just want to break from it, it's okay to say, hey, I get it. You know what I mean? But from now to whenever, I've decided that, I'm going to take a break on that subject, and it's okay to set that boundary, you know.
Absolutely. I've found myself having to do that with my mother.
Hmm.
We love talking about certain things, but I can literally feel my blood pressure rise. And I'm like, Mom, can we talk about, how my kid peed the bed again? Because I can't do this. I love you. I can't. And neither can she, frankly, because it creates the same angst in her. Um, and especially too with those loved ones who we disagree with. It's okay to just say, hey, we're going to table this. We're just not going to. And frankly, if you need a break from Zoom and you don't want to have a Zoom dinner with your family, it's okay to say no, because we're on our computers all the time now, and it's a lot. It's really draining.
Absolutely. I just think like the bottom line is we have to keep our wells full, and there's certain things we can do to help ourselves, and we have to be intentional, and we have to make it a priority, because if we don't, we're no good to anybody else anyway. So we have to respect ourselves to take that time to take care of ourselves.
Patrice, with that, I'm not sure if there's anything else to add, because I think that's the most important part. And with that, we'll say goodbye.